Hey guys, welcome back to Here We Mow again. I'm Jeff and this is Billy. So I've shown my garden on this channel a few times now, and today we're going to do some work out there. Just like your grass, the garden does require care, and it does require fertilization, and it does require you to give it some attention sometimes. So today we're going to go out there. Let's go take a look. All right, so as you can see, the garden is growing good. Over here is the corn. My daughter actually planted all these, and I think she did a great job. She applied a heavy dose of Milorganite when she put these in, so I think that made a big difference. And you can actually see that we're getting some corn that's starting to sprout. It's not going to be ready for a little while, obviously. And then over here are the tomato plants. Now this year I decided to single stem them and tie them up to these poles. I've tried the tomato cages in the past and they just don't work too well. So you'll notice at the bottom there's one stem all the way down, and it's tied up to the pole, and this should result in better airflow, less disease, and hopefully more fruit. We're not quite ready for the fruit to produce quite yet. It's about a month away. And over here are our pepper plants, which are growing very nice. There's one little pepper, I think, on the back side of one. We have some cucumbers. Got a little damage from some recent rain, and I think an animal got in here. And also have potato plants, which have fallen over and gotten a little crazy. This is actually the first year I've grown potatoes, so a lesson for next year is I'm going to plant them a little lower. I probably plant them about 3 or 4 inches low, or deep rather, in the soil, and then I hilled it up as they grew. What I found though is that because they grow so tall, next year I think I'm going to plant them about 8 inches deep, and I did see this online as a tip, so hopefully that will work a little better. And then over on the other side of the garden we have some more potatoes. So for you guys that like potatoes out there, we should have an abundance this year. And of course, we have our pumpkin patch, which is growing quite well. So let's go ahead and get to work. We have a little fertilization to do. Okay, so the first thing we're going to be applying is just a general all-purpose 10-10-10 fertilizer. I tend to put this down about once a month or every 3 weeks or so. You only need to put a little. It's pretty strong, so you don't want to risk burning your plants. And this can be bought at Home Depot or Lowe's. It's usually $12 or $13 a bag. It's pretty inexpensive. And a little tip, you can use this on your lawn too. I wouldn't put it on too heavy because it is quick release, but and I would not use it in the summer. But that's just a quick tip that could save you a little money as well. So let's go ahead and put this down. All right, so I usually just grab a handful and then kind of sprinkle it in. You want to try to sprinkle it onto the roots and not get it on the leaves, because if you leave it on the leaves and it rains, it will burn the leaves a little bit. So again, these are the pumpkin plants. They really don't need much fertilizer anyways, because they're growing pretty good. But this does help. Okay, and the potatoes. Just gotta sprinkle that on there. And let's go ahead and go inside here. Okay, so you just want to sprinkle a little bit around the base of each plant. I wouldn't suggest putting it right up against the plant. Try to side dress it a little bit if you can. Now, the corn can be a little challenging to get in here. Okay, so one thing you may have noticed is I tend to spread some grass clippings in the garden from the lawn. I do this probably once a month, and you just want to be careful that you don't put any grass clippings in the garden anytime after you apply any type of chemicals to your lawn. If it's organic, that's fine, but if it's weed killer specifically, you definitely don't want to get that anywhere near your garden. And applying the grass clippings in the garden helps keep the weeds down, and it also helps keep moisture in the soil. So take a look. So look, if I pull this back, that's actually still damp under here, which is nice. And in case you're wondering why I wrap a water bottle around the base of the plants, well, that actually stops cutworms from going in and attaching themselves to the tomato plant. Cutworms will actually come in and wrap around the base of the tomato plant, and then they eat it away, and all of a sudden your tomato plant is gone. So a little trick is just to wrap a water bottle around it, and that way the cutworm can't get around it. So let's keep applying the fertilizer. And last but not least are the potatoes. Now, potatoes are pretty heavy feeders, so it's definitely good to get some fertilizer on them. All right, and I actually recently applied some granular potassium to this. Potassium is great for your garden, just like it is for your lawn, and it helps when the plants are starting to bloom flowers. So I usually put this on about twice. I put it on this past week, and I'll put it on probably in about another month. And that really helps the tomatoes and the pepper plants. I apply it to everything, but specifically the tomatoes and the pepper plants, it really helps with the blooming, which will ultimately yield more fruit. So that's a quick tip. All right, so in the background, you should be able to see the potassium that I applied. It's Epsoma brand potash. It's a 0060, so you really don't need to apply too much because it is pretty strong. I use a little less than half a bag on my garden, and like I said, it does help with flowering and ultimately yields greater fruit production. I'll reapply this again in a few weeks, and it should really help the garden to pop. So you can get this at Home Depot or Lowe's and online. I got it at my local Agway just because it was more convenient. It was $12.99 for the bag, so really not too bad. All right, and the last thing that I'm going to apply today is the Miracle Grow plant food. Now, this is different from the regular Miracle Grow. This is specific for tomatoes and vegetables, and I usually apply this every couple weeks, every 2 or 3 weeks. We've had a lot of rain lately, so I haven't put it out there for 2 weeks or so it's definitely due for some. So this is an 18-18-21, so you definitely don't want to apply it too heavy or too often, but like I said, every 3 weeks is probably about right. And you can get this at Home Depot and Lowe's. I prefer to get it online. It's actually a little cheaper. I'll leave a link down below, and it's also more convenient. So let's go ahead and get this mixed up. Okay, so they do include a scoop in the package. 1 scoop yields a gallon. So what I like to do is put this into my Gatorade bottle, make sure it gets in there nice, and then I fill it up with water, shake it up, and then put that into my watering can and fill it the rest with water. Mix it up. That makes it a little easier. I mentioned this in one of my prior videos, but just make sure you let the hose run for a minute or two. When the water first comes out, when it's been in the sun, it's super hot, and you really don't want that going right on your plants. All right, so let's go ahead and get this mixed up. Go ahead and put the water in the Gatorade bottle. Make sure you don't overfill it. And then throw the cap on the Gatorade bottle, mix it up, and put it in your watering can. All right, mix that up real good. And then you're gonna pour the whole thing into your watering can and fill the rest with water. This is a gallon watering can, so I really don't have to measure it. I just fill up the watering can to the top, and I'm good to go. If you do see the remains of any of the granular fertilizer that we just put on, try to wash that off the leaf, because like I said, it will burn the leaf if you leave it on there. So you want to give this a good soaking. All right, now on to the pumpkins. So I try to get this right to where the roots are in the pumpkins so that I don't get it all over the leaves. And I am seeing a little animal damage in here on the leaves, which is a little unavoidable when it comes to pumpkins. But I do have a cure for that. I'll show that in another video. So you can see these pumpkins are really healthy. There's some, I don't know if you can see it on the video, but there's some buds. There's one right down there. And those will turn into flowers. And the flowers hopefully will turn into pumpkins. All right, we're on to our second jug of Miracle-Gro plant food. And this is about full. You can get a sprayer for this, but I prefer just to do it in the watering can. Like I said, I only do it every few weeks. 2 weeks at the beginning of the season, and then in the middle of the season, every 3 weeks. So for me, it's just easier to do it in the watering can, but it does require several trips back and forth. All right, we're on onto the tomatoes. So I should mention, you want to give these guys a good soak. I usually do probably about a 1/4 gallon per plant. That makes sure that it gets in there nice. And also, this is kind of dual purpose because we just put down the granular fertilizer. So watering this with the liquid fertilizer will get some of that granular fertilizer in there as well. All right, just about done with the tomatoes. But if you can see these are some nice cherry tomatoes that are starting to come in. So I planted 3 varieties of tomatoes this year: cherry, beefsteak, and early tomatoes. So the early ones should pop up sometime in later July, although we're getting pretty close to that now. So all right, now on to the peppers. I planted orange and yellow peppers. For you hot pepper lovers out there, there's no jalapenos in this garden. Sorry, my stomach can't take it. But these are coming along nicely too. Well, hopefully you guys can see this all right, but we got a couple nice peppers coming in already. Now these are green right now. They'll turn color. They'll be either orange or yellow. But you do have to let them ripen. It's pretty exciting to me. I did start all these plants from seed, the tomatoes and the peppers included. So I really get a kick out of seeing them grow. All right, last but not least, I'm gonna do the potatoes. Just a week ago, before we got all this rain, these were standing up a lot better. The rain knocked them all down, but they should be okay because potatoes actually grow in the ground. So at the end of the season, everything you see above the ground is actually going to die out, and that will tell you that the potatoes under the ground are ready. That I will definitely record. All right, well, we're all done with our fertilizing today. And I think so far, the garden's looking pretty good. Had a couple setbacks, weather and critters, etc. But I think all in all, I would say it's looking pretty good. Let's go ahead and get cleaned up. All right, so it's getting pretty sunny out and I'm hot, and I think it's probably a good stopping point here. I did want to point out that I do apply both synthetic and organic fertilizer. At the beginning of the season, I applied Milorganite. Actually, my daughter applied Milorganite when we planted everything, and then I also mixed in compost with the soil. And then throughout the season, I also apply additional Milorganite, and then obviously I apply the synthetic. To me, this is a good blend. It's a hybrid approach of organic and synthetic, and it seems to work pretty well. I know people feel strongly on both sides of the table, but for me, this works well. So with that, I'm Jeff with Here We Mow again. Thanks so much for joining me for another episode. Please thumbs up this video, leave your comments down below, and subscribe to the channel for more exciting videos. We'll see you on the next one. Thanks so much.